Anyway, along the way, there are some very real people who had told me bits and pieces of the story. It's not just Bob. Let's play one of them. This guy named Jim Goodall wrote books about stealth technology. He was a friend of John Lear.
Did you ever get any information about a facility in Papoose like the one you described? I have a friend of mine. He's a retired senior master sergeant. He was early on in the F-117 program. They had their badge,
like
restricted area badge. He could go anywhere in Nevada test zone, up to including Area 51. So they had a Humvee, and they drove around the Green Range, Green Range, and they're on Papoose Lake. There's anybody around, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by guys in black uniforms, wanting to put their hands on their weapons. Who they were, who they knew. My buddy said, we have some downtime, we're just exploring the area. He said, you turn around and you leave, and don't come back.
They just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
He didn't know where they came from. He didn't see any vehicles. All of a sudden, they were there. And he left. There was 3 or 4 guys, but they left.
What do you make of it? There might be something in that, or was, or...
Well, according to Bob, that's where the 9 Aerorettes are. It's camouflaged on the side of the mountain.
I'll give you one other thing about the S4 and Papoose. There was a guy named Jerry Friedman. He's an archaeologist. You wouldn't think an archaeologist has anything to do with flying saucers. Jerry Friedman was studying the path of the 49ers. There was a gold rush in 1849 when thousands of people fled west to try to strike it rich. And a lot of them in covered wagons and settlers, and they had certain paths that they followed. And Jerry Friedman was trying to reconstruct the path that the 49ers had taken, and he thought that they had gone right straight across the Nevada test site, and in fact had been at Papoose Lake. So what he did was, very bold of him, he infiltrated the test site from going west to east and walked all the way across it, dodged security patrols. He would walk in the nighttime and then hide during the day, and he made it all the way across. Let's show the Friedman stuff. He made it all the way across the test site to Papoose Lake. These are pictures that he had set up with an automatic camera. That's Papoose behind him. That's the place where Bob Lazar said he worked. So Friedman, again, walking at night and hiding in the day, gets all the way to Papoose. He finds the evidence he's looking for. The 49ers carved something into the rocks there. But as he's sitting out there at night, right at Papoose, it's a sad story about what he does. A doorway opens up. He said he's sitting there and the doorway of light opens up in the middle of the sky, and things come out, people come out, objects come out, and then it closed up again. He's not a flying saucer guy. He walked all the way across the test site, not realizing that land is still contaminated with all kinds of nuclear fallout. And he died of cancer 2 years after his journey. But anyway, he gave a little piece that sort of goes along with what Jim Goodall just said about people coming out of nowhere. Remember, Papoose Lake, where Lazar said there's this facility built inside a mountain, there is nothing there officially. The last piece of information is some guy named James Wildermuth. I never knew of the guy before. He's a European guy here. And he sent me these images that he found on Google Earth. Normally this would have been cleaned up, but somehow he found it. You tell me what it was. Anyway, he used Google Earth to take a good hard look at this, and he found some lines on the side of Papoose that looked like exactly what Lazar had been describing. He put the pins in there. You can see the thin outline of these lines. A friend of mine was an investigator for Congress, and he had the highest security clearances. He thought that something was really going on in Area 51. I gave him a briefing, and he made them let him in. They approved him with finding a snowstorm to S4 and Papoose. But they took him to the other side of the facility. He got out on the ground. His name was Dick Romano. He worked for a senator who oversaw the budget, and looked around out there, and he said this was 5 years after Bob Lazar's story came forward. And he said there was nothing there, but he didn't look at the site. And it sure looked like hangar doors to me, at least some lines that indicated something to be there. I want to give you a couple of pieces of what Lazar says now, because his views on things have changed quite a bit, as you might imagine. So many crazy stories have been told about Bob over the years, that he's running a meth lab, that he's got a string of hookers down in South America, that he's dead. Once a year, somebody comes up with the story that Bob is dead. It's no wonder that he's tried to leave all this stuff behind him and wants nothing more to do with it. It took me a long time to coax him into doing this interview earlier this year to recognize the 25th anniversary. I'm hoping to talk him into going on Coast to Coast maybe in November. But I wanted to sort of share with you a couple of the pieces, the stuff that he is comfortable talking about, and that is the technology, the science involved. As I mentioned in the beginning, he claims that these craft operate on an anti-gravity sort of mechanism. Let's play that clip where he talks in detail about it.
That alone is something. That everything. Because look at what that does. We know gravity, space, and time are all tied together. There are your shields, like on Star Trek, that deflect micrometeorites. There is your protection from radiation without heavy shielding. There is something that, with an intense enough focused field, you can actually bend space. And there is something that can actually alter the flow of time. I mean, that's the missing piece of pie. A candle. Yeah, now that's when it's connected to the gravity amplifiers where they could focus it, and that was pros the candle. Yeah, they had a candle that set it up. Again, our craft itself, three long pipes. What's that? 3-4 feet diameter, 5 feet long. Anyway, they dangle the three of them at the bottom of the craft. These produce gravitational waves, focus to a point. Yeah. They're part of the power control mechanism and the wave guide is one. But that's the gravitational wave. That's one of those devices out along with the subsystem connected, so they can produce the power from the reactor, they run the gravity amplifier, and they can focus and change the gravity beam that comes out of it. They took a candle, put it close to the mouth of that lit, a normal flickering candle flame, and then activated the reactor. The gravity wave came out as expected, and the flame main movement and because look, if it's going to freeze it, it's supposed to stop being emitted, change the characteristics. Look, how can the combustion continue to take place without the convection inside the flame? Because actually, the reason the flame is elongated is not really because of heat, it's because of gravity. Because gravity pulls down and convection moves the flames upward. It's why in a zero gravity environment, flames are low. There's nothing to hold things around. But anyway, if you negate the gravity around it, why is it still pulling up and ignite? Why doesn't it move? Well, I mean, heat is very good. It's not just gravity, but it's all the time. It's stored in the they essentially frozen time there. What do you say? I mean, you're empirical evidence. You're looking at it. It's not it doesn't make sense. And look, the stuff I saw there is the most unbelievable, literally, because it defied what we knew as physics. And at least I thought it could. And maybe what we took correct. We just needed viewing from a different angle.
We do know now that research into anti-gravity is at the top of the list of what American tech companies are doing, and the Defense Department is also doing anti-gravity propulsion Bob said that the key to it was this element 115. And it was, I saw it. In fact, he had a little experiment they did with what's called a cloud chamber, where they had, it looked to me like light. They had a piece of this 115 in this chamber, they put some smoke in it, and it seemed, and then had a beam of light through it, and the light bent. Bob, at one point, when he thought he was going to die, had this piece of 115 in it was a lead casing, a disc-shaped casing, and he had it in front of a particle accelerator in his house, and he had the accelerator on, and all he had to do was flip a button. If this stuff was real, as he described it, flipping the button, and you hit it with protons, electrons, whatever it was that would make it explode in annihilation, would have left great big hole. He had that piece. I saw the experiment. What happened to it, that's a story for another time. It's in a spot now where nobody can get to it, but it's still there. One of these days, maybe after Bob's gone, we'll dig it up. As at the time that he told us the story about element 115, element 115 did not exist. It does exist now. It's been synthesized. They made it in a lab, and a lab that lasts for a microsecond, but it is Bob and it's confirmed that it's found on the element chart. And this piece, Bob, they finally did decide and the problem that they yeah, it wasn't stable. Each element has hydrogen, for instance. They're talking about hydrogen hydrogen has 3 isotopes. They're all hydrogen. There's hydrogen, petroleum, and effectively radioactive. Other things like and petroleum, hydrogen, they're all hydrogen. They have different amounts. They all have one proton. Now this is true for all of them. You can have the amount of protons determines what element it is. So element 115 has 115 protons in it. It's element 115. Now depending on the neutrons, it's still the element 115. But it can be any number of isotopes. We've synthesized 115, you name one isotope, you have a radioactive working with it. I mean, they made just a few atoms, but we'll see what other isotopes they come up with. One of them is more stable, and it will have a huge atom and put it on our life. We make it.
Be careful, Captain.
Well, it's natural. It'd be difficult to find, to get some usable material. I do not think you could make that synthetically because it takes too much time. I mean, to make an ounce of it or even a gram, it takes a tremendous amount of time because not all the interactions are successful. I mean, you can bang particles together all day long and one may get stuck when you've got an atom. And how do you change a single atom? So how do we get by ourselves? Well, it had to either be synthesized by the actual residue on the first place, or, maybe it was location that came from where this was actually occurring material. We know that all the material in the universe, essentially all the atoms of all elements, came from hydrogen. I mean, all you really need is hydrogen. They can, once they start collecting together large quantities of gravity, pushing together under their own weight.
It's sort of like a Rorschach test. It's, aha, they made 115. He was right. It really does exist. Somebody does want to believe it says 115 doesn't behave anything like Bob Lazar said. It sits around a pile of 500 pounds. Right? I mean, it's sort of like that.
Right. You have to, you just have to start accumulating whether you believe it or not. And I personally, I prefer you don't believe it. Just begin accumulating the facts that you can verify. And really be careful when you get the facts from it, because if you see documents contained by someone that, they say are official, I see the most ridiculous things. Here's a report from some government agency going, yeah, everything Balthazar says is fabricated and we verified it in the office in Philadelphia. And I mean, you know, just constant stuff. You know, verify it yourself. And if you start adding up all the facts, like the people that were witnessing at the time, you know, have an obvious advantage. Because they knew me before all of this stuff happened. They knew, I didn't even believe in flying stuff. The internet was crazy.
Coming to the end here, you know, I guess you'd say, could you really keep a secret like this? Wouldn't it leak out? You know, it's whether or not you pay attention that matters. One of the guys, if there's anybody who would know about this being true, it's a guy named Ben Rich, who's the head of Smokeworks, which is the Lockheed company that built all the Blacklist projects, the SR-71, U-2, Stealth, all of that. Ben Rich headed up Smokeworks for such a long time. If anyone in the civilian sector would know, it would be him. So I asked him, on the day that they unveiled the Stealth fighter at Dallas Air Force Base, they had it sitting on a tarmac, and they invited the media to come in, and I was one of the guys who was there sitting. And so Ben Rich was available for interviews, and I went up and asked him, Mr. Rich, great to meet you, ask him a couple of questions, and then led up to this one. You know, a lot of people say there's alien technology in the stuff you develop, and you can stop it for a second, what's that mean? He kind of laughs. No, just good old American know-how. But before he died, Ben Rich said this in a public comment. And the reason I'm asking is friends of his had asked him about UFOs, and he said it was real. But he said this to an engineering audience. He said, we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do it. We have the technology to take ET home. It won't take someone's lifetime to do it. We have that capability now to travel to the stars. He died a few months after that. And he was trying to tell me about something. This stuff is real. That what Bob has said is real. I'll end with one last little piece of Bob, because, you know, people wonder what goes on in his life. There's all those rumors I told you about before, and I put him the question to him in a couple of different ways about whether he would do it again. And he goes back and forth. Basically, I think he would say no, but here's what he told me back to me.
But that drives me crazy. I mean, that's fun to answer this. Now I need an answer. How many times do you get that, you know, in a week still after all?
Oh, I get there isn't a day I don't get emails, and you know, I try and get this across to them. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. You know, well, I don't believe the story. Great, pass it around. You know, I really don't want to do because it makes life difficult. I'm trying to do serious research. You know, I've got contract with governments and other companies for R&D work and aside from other scientific interests, and I want this divorce. Look, if I win, did everything I can to prove my story and reach the tipping point where people like Dan Friedman and people along those lines, you know what, this is beginning was factual. You know how that would annihilate me? That would destroy my business, make it impossible for me to operate, and you know, I'd have a continuous flow of questions, annoying people, and sure offers to do things that I have not at least been interested in.
I can argue somewhere there, even though it would be counterproductive. But I can argue it is. I know it can't be true.
No, look, I know what happened. Now, there's no delusion, and there are some things I can say that will hold to the case, and I'm not going to. It's going to stay there. I do regret, at this point, bringing in people. Look, I'm in my early 20s, but you know what? Driving in American people, this BS, everybody deserves it. You know, 25 years go by, you get a little older, priorities, and what they told me is, this is a security matter, and really, what's the public going to do about it? There's a bunch of different reasons. Nothing that they bother telling me, but the bottom line is they're right. The public people are I'm sorry. Maybe they are right. And this really should just be information that's handled out on a need-to-know basis with something where we benefit of.
No, I know you don't like to hear it, but there's a lot of people, after you're in this field for a long time, you kind of come to the same conclusion. Maybe it doesn't really need to be out. I believe in the people's right to know. That's my job. So I pursue it in that vein. But you have to wonder whether it's really a good idea or not. You know, the pursuit of this story has led me to take me all over the world chasing different kind of UFO stuff. My views have changed so much from those days about just thinking of nuts and bolts, flying saucers. Is there a government cover-up? I mean, this is really, as earlier speaker was suggesting, it's much bigger mystery than that, whether or not flying saucers are coming from other planets. But Jacques Vallée, my hero in the UFO field, I had interviewed him back in these days when he came to investigate the Tsar and asked me some questions and we become quite closer friends. But he said, I'm going to be so disappointed if it turns out that the answer to the UFO mystery is that aliens are coming from another planet and flying saucers to visit us, because he suggests that the way these craft behave, the technology they have, it suggests that the ultimate answer is so much bigger, so much more wondrous than something as simple as that. These things that we see in the sky are just a small part of something much bigger. You know, the universe is far more mysterious than maybe we can imagine or can imagine. And the glimpses that we get of these craft are, I think, part of some much larger learning curve. This is about reality itself, the nature of the world around us. And I get the feeling that we can understand it only a tiny sliver, and that its true nature is being withheld from us. And maybe it's beyond the ability of our small, tiny brains to understand. But we have to try. I think that it is the duty of scientists and journalists to investigate the unexplained, not to explain the uninvestigated. Thank you very much.